Dan Illman, Ashley Mailloux taking a look at race number 3 at Santa Anita on Saturday. We're hoping the grade 3 Robert J. Frankel stays on the turf. A little wet weather expected in Southern California. This race is for fillies and mares going 9 furlongs. Let's take a look at this group. We have 6 in here. It looks like the strength to the outside. The 5 Oakhurst is dropping back down in distance. The 6 Your Want There was rallying strongly last time out in a restricted stake.
I think the big thing too is Oakhurst. To me, this is a dropping class out of her last couple. Some of the horses that she's faced, Closing Remarks, Turn Her Loose, just a little bit of deeper waters. But I think the horse on the outside probably has the best recent form. So it's a little bit of a clash of a horse maybe getting fast relief and another one just getting good at the right time.
Now, the 5 and the 6, 2 horses that expect to take money in this race, perhaps they could be compromised by a lack of speed going over the past performances. I don't really see a ton of early pace. Let's see where our friends at Timeform US believe. They think the 4 Luminiferous, the 3 Angel Nadeshiko can get to the front, and I won't be surprised at all if they are on or near the lead, but I also won't be surprised if they're going slow.
Yeah, they could be very slow. And I think Lakota Spirit could be a little bit closer than maybe this projects, just looking at her race 2 back, where I know it's a different surface, but she still has a little bit of early foot to her and the inside draw. But I agree. If you look at this race on paper, it's really hard to say 1 or 2 horses, they have to be on the lead. It just doesn't pan out that way.
I think you're right about Lakota Spirit's tactical speed, allowing her to get a good trip, as she did last time out when winning a first-level allowance at Del Mar. She worked out a trip down towards the rail. The rail opens up. She scoots on through, and once she is clear, she is gone.
And it was nice to see her finally win as the favorite. She went off favorite in her prior 2 efforts, was close but unable to get the job done. And I think maybe that race off the bit of the freshening she needed. She just got denied in that second start back, and then we see her win here. I thought she won very nicely there for Phil D'Amato, and I keep on saying it. I just think the barn is red hot, and that's always something to watch, and she's coming in this race fresh off that win.
The legendary Frankie Dettori picks up the mount on the 2 Rebel Girl, a horse that might have been compromised by a lack of pace in a first-level allowance at Golden Gate Fields last time out. It was a mile race. They went 48 and 1 to the half. She tried to rally from last, and she was beaten only a 3/4 of a length for all of the money. That being said, she's facing a much tougher group.
It's a tougher group, and she's had some time in between each of her last several races where they've had to put her, it looks like, maybe a little bit on the shelf, or they've just trained her up until these races. And I wish she would have maybe one more race off that little bit of a layoff. I think that'd give me more confidence. It seems like when I look at this, did they send her to Golden Gate to get a confidence-boosting effort under her belt? Because look at her off odds. She took a lot more respect knowing that she came out of races at Santa Anita and Del Mar. And I think all in all, she raced well, but I don't think that figure going to put her in the top 2 here. I just think she's a little bit overmatched with the outside runners.
3 is Angel Nadeshiko, last race on dirt at Los Alamitos in September, then was listed as a vet scratch at Santa Anita on October 28th. Now must return off a 3-month layoff while seeking her first turf victory.
Tough for me to make a case off those last 3, Dan. I think she's needed to make up ground, and she really hasn't been able to do so. And we talked about the pace perspective. I know 2 of them were on the dirt, but if the pace isn't hot, we talked about she could be forwardly placed. I just don't necessarily know. She's a little inconsistent, but you would think off the dirt races she should be more forward. What is she going to have to offer late, though, at a 1.125 miles?
The 4 Luminiferous was beaten by Lakota Spirit last time out at a big price, but she had to take the overland route while the winner was able to save ground most of the way. Her early speed probably gives her a slight advantage in here, but she's sort of stuck in the plateau of buyer speed figures in the mid to high 70s, and one has to think she's got to run faster to win this.
Yeah, and I think looking at her last race, she's going to run okay there. She's going to make up some ground. She's going to finish 3rd, beaten by 1.25 lengths, but Lakota Spirit was able to beat her. You go to the race 2 back. Several in here have been able to defeat her in those subsequent starts and just in consecutive starts. And I agree with what you said about her sort of being plateaued with those numbers. To me, that's not a positive sign, especially when you have some other horses in here that have improved.
Oakhurst goes out for D'Amato and Pratt, and those connections demand respect. And they tried to stretch this horse all the way out in the red carpet last time out, and it was a race. There was no pace. They ran 1-2 all the way around the track, and I don't think it was run to suit Oakhurst, who now cuts back to 9 furlongs, a distance where she's had success in the past. And I have a feeling she can stay within range if the pace is slow.
I think so too. I think if you go to the race 3 back, she was able to do that. Now, she ends up only finishing 4th in that grade 2 event, but at least she was close. Now, you go to her 1 win this year, it was at 1.125 miles, and she was far off of it. She was dead last, but I agree with you. I do think her versatility should help her. And I do think on paper, she's the class. Go down the page. She's been in some very, very tough races. And for her, this grade 3 event, this is significant class relief.
Now, I am concerned about your Tier's lack of pace. Here's her most recent start, the Catherine Crosby, going a mile. This pace was not fast for a mile. They went 48-1. She was way, way off of the pace, but she does come with a nice run to finish second. And the horse that finished fourth in this race would come back to beat Oakhurst in the red carpet with a 90 Beyer speed figure. She's lightly raced. I think she has a lot of upside potential, but that lack of speed could put her at the mercy of race and pace luck.
It certainly could, and you can see in her 3 starts since coming over, she's been dead last, out of the gates. That's her running style. But I wonder if Umberto learned a little bit in that most recent start, is going to ride her again, and maybe he will be a little bit more, cautious of that, having her too far off of it. She's going to get that extra distance as well. But we've talked about it. Pace makes the race. She's certainly going to be at a disadvantage if things are slow.
Let's take a look at our top selections for the Robert J. Frankel. We're both going with the horses on the outside, just in a different order. 5, 6, 1, 4 for Ashley. Oakhurst, I think, is going to appreciate getting back in distance, and I think you'll get the jump on me turning for home.
I think so too. I'm just hoping that she can kind of reverse her form. Her last 2 have been a little bit disappointing. I think if she's anywhere near where she was even 3 and 4 starts ago, this might be the right spot for her.
Hoping the upside of the 6 can propel her to a slightly faster race, and maybe she can get there in the nick of time. Good card at Santa Anita. Let's hope the weather holds up. The Robert J. Frankel for Fillies and Mares, carded as race number 3.